Hello, healers and spiritual entrepreneurs. So, today I'm going to continue a little bit along the vein of last time's broadcast, and that is talking a little bit more about your business. And the reason why I'm doing this is that I spent 2 or 3 years doing things the wrong way, and it got very expensive, and I could have been in tax trouble if I didn't have a really awesome bookkeeper help me out. So the kinds of bookkeepers that you want are the ones that deal with small business, right? To start with. And you don't necessarily need a CPA, but it's helpful to have a CPA when you prepare taxes if they're complicated, right? So today I'm going to talk about the 4 kinds of main business entities, and then when you should incorporate, because there are 2 ways you may incorporate. And then I'll talk a little bit about some online resources that you can get for free to help you get started. Okay, stay tuned to hear more. This is Anastasia. I used to be a physics professor specializing in vibrational and quantum physics. After recovering from a serious illness using energy healing on myself, the calling to heal became so strong that I had to quit my 40-year research career. I replaced my 6-figure professor's salary within 5 months using a simple but not easy 3-step system that I worked out to grow my healing practice. Now I help other healers grow their practices, whether they're just starting or already have a practice, with this same 3-step system. I'm all about helping you too. Listen in to learn more. Thank you so much for coming back. So today what I'm going to talk about are the 4 main business entities. And when you're just starting out, you're going to find out that the first way is as a sole proprietorship. And so that means that one person is responsible for knowing all the aspects of your business. It's financially responsible and doesn't answer to anyone else. They don't have partners, they don't have bosses. And you as a healing practitioner, that is usually where you start. That's before you start to grow a little bigger. Right? And for the most part, that is the ideal situation to start in because it has the least amount of input capital that you need. Because other practices, like if you're going to do something online or you're going to sell hard products like whatever, any kind of widgets, you are going to need something a little more. Okay, so sole proprietorship is basically an individual. The first thing that you need to do is, if you live in the US, I don't know how it is in other countries, but if you live in the US, you need to get a business identification number, or EIN. And an EIN can be for a trust, can be for sole proprietorship, it can even be for a partnership, but you have a separate tax identity for that business. And when you file your taxes, for example, and in the US you file a Schedule C, you will be using that particular number there. So then the next kind of business entity is a partnership. And that's when 2 people are financially responsible and share in decisions. And if you're going to form a partnership, make sure your roles are written out very clearly in a contract that you both sign, and also have a way to exit from it, because sometimes it just doesn't work out. For example, one brother got into partnership with somebody he's known a really long time. And they each had different images of how the business was supposed to run, and they needed to dissolve the partnership. And likewise, my uncle had the same thing. He was forming a film studio in Athens, and his business partner was all about show and no go, and my uncle was all go and no show. And so the show guy ran the business into the ground, and they had to dissolve the partnership. So always make sure you've got all of those things in place. And likewise, every business entity needs a special tax identifier, probably anywhere in the world. Okay, so now that you've got these businesses started and you are, getting into bigger and bigger sales and bigger risk, for example, it's time to form some kind of corporation. And so a corporation is a separate entity than you. Tax identifier only says your business has it, but a corporation is a separate entity, and that separate entity allows you to separate your personal and professional financial responsibility. So if somebody sues your business and your business doesn't have any money, they can't do very much about it because they cannot go after your personal assets. And likewise, if someone sues you personally, they can't go after your business assets, right? So you can, an LLC is a limited liability corporation. It has some tax advantages. There is more work involved, meaning that you have to file a separate tax form, and you have to also file, depending on which state you live in. I know that in California, LLCs are really expensive, but wherever you file it, wherever you form the corporation and wherever you file it, there are lots of rules that you have to follow. For example, we have an LLC as a charity, and every year we have to file a statement when we had our meetings, what was discussed in the meetings, the meeting minutes, and so on. And then all of the LLC owners have to sign, for example. And then you have two kinds of big corporations. These are big structures. That's when you start having all those 5 different functions that happen in a business with different individuals that each have people working underneath them. That's when you start growing really big, and that's when you start filing as a corporation. And there are 2 different kinds. There's the S type of corp. This is what they call pass-through taxation. And then the C corp, it is almost a double tax. It taxes your salary. So you can sell a whole bunch of stuff and then you take a salary, right? So you're taxed on the profit of the stuff, and then you as a salary, your salary is taxed separately as an individual, right? So the company has its tax, and then your salary is taxed. So those are for really big companies. So let me tell you when to do what. So most healers and most people that have healing businesses, most of them will be sole proprietors. I know some partnerships. Partnerships are when one person does all the marketing and the other person does the healing, for example. I've seen some extremely successful partnerships where this happens. And usually the marketer is totally into whatever that healer is doing and has experienced it and is enthusiastic and wants to sell it. This is where both people are passionate about it and when it works. But as a as a healing practice, you will be a sole proprietor or an LLC as you grow and as your income grows and as the risk of you being out there grows. So here's when it's time to incorporate, is when you want to limit your personal liability for business debts. That's number 1. Number 2, when you are raising capital from investors. Like I have self-funded my whole time. That means that I used my own credit cards and paid them down to establish my business. So I was investing in myself, for example. But some other people will want to invest in you, allowing you to sponsor their products. That's one way. Another, there's lots of different ways. Or you selling their products, like there's this little device called the Healy. So you might be wanting to incorporate at that point. And then 3 is when it becomes advantageous for you to be taxed as a corporation rather than taxed as an individual. So here are instances in which this would happen, right? First is if you're selling food or supplements to others, like nutritional products or food bars. You could be liable for, in case somebody has like a bad reaction to something or something is tainted, you want to cover yourself. If you are running events where people could get hurt and it is not at a place that has the liability insurance like most hotels do, when you do an event at a hotel, make sure that they do. If they don't and you're not incorporated, go to get some liability insurance for yourself. Right? In fact, it's always a good idea to make sure. And the third reason is in case you are in danger of being sued for any reason, right? You have to make sure that you cover all your disclaimers, that you don't make any outrageous claims like you can cure cancer because it can't be cured, for example. You can be relieved. You can help the tumor shrink. But it doesn't mean that you're ever cured, for example. So you can't make that kind of claim. And so these are basically, in a nutshell, what the 4 business entities are and why you would want to incorporate, going from sole proprietorship or partnership to an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, right? So I mentioned that I'm going to talk a little bit about resources. So there's lots of free resources online, really a lot. And some of the resources that I have used, for example, basically forever as free. Because if you don't need beyond the bounds of what they have to offer for free, then you don't need to have the paid version. And one such thing that I have used a lot is an online booking system. It's called Calendly.com. There are several different free ones. I've mentioned these before, but it allows people to click on the link that you get them. You can put it on your card. You can put it on pamphlets. You can put it in on Facebook. You can put it everywhere where you want people to make appointments with you. Is Calendly.com. It is completely free. It allows you one kind of appointment. It allows you to get an email with their information so you know who's booked you, and it puts it automatically in your calendar. I happen to use Google Calendar, but it also coordinates with Apple Calendar and I don't know what else, but it allows you to create bookings through links, for example. And then another one is Zoom.us. Now, what's great about Zoom is you can do one-to-many. I think they're changing this now. It's just flipping over. But you can do calls for up to 40 minutes for free. You can record them. You can download them. You can post them. You can do, I'm not sure whether you can do one-to-many as long anymore. But it is a really great free resource. So let's say that you want to record a video like this and you don't have any other resources and you're at a place where you have a really ugly background. This happens to be my current, this is a room. This is not a Zoom background, but Zoom will provide a background when you go into your video settings. It will provide a nice background and it'll do automatic green screening for you. So if you're in a really messy room and you've got an ironing board propped up and you've got a bunch of books piled on the floor, or you have, you're visiting somewhere, like if I'm visiting my family and they have the kitchen in the background, you won't see all that disorganization and mess. And so you can then create a automatic green screen. You can upload any image you want. For example, if I took a picture of this and uploaded that image into my Zoom account, I can use that as my background, right? So you have lots of options. So these are the two resources that I'm going to mention today. And next time I will mention more about creating images for offline and online marketing, where you can do that for free and where you can find free resources online without getting into copyright trouble. So I thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for taking valuable time out of your day to listen in. If you found this message helpful, please help spread the word by giving the broadcast a thumbs up or a 5-star rating. Share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to my channel with your notifications on. For further training on healing and growing your healing business using my 3-step system, go to www.highpaidhealers.com. And I'll see you in the next video.